DAPTIME Sports. Game Time. Full episodes can be found at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on our website at www.itsdaptime.com. Also, follow us on Instagram at DAPTIME21, Twitter at DAP_time, Facebook at DAPTIME, and on YouTube at DAPTIME TV. Thank you for your continued support. As always, we're proud to be sponsored by Harrell Eyewear, makers of fashionable eyewear. Also, rolling out a new line called Never Lose Your Identity. Be on the lookout for it. Harrell Eyewear, never lose your identity. It's time.
What up? What up? What's happening? You know who it is right now. It's your boy AJ, also accompanied by the one and only world-renowned Big Dame. And the groove, well, it's always dropped on the one by our in-house maestro himself, Pete Nice. We are glad to welcome you back to another episode of Game Time, where Big Dame and I talk about sports and sports-related topics. We've been out of the game for so long, we haven't been in the lab, so we're going to get in here today and just freak it up. There's so much to talk about. So with that, it is time to lace them up and let's get to it. Ding, ding. What up, Big Dame?
What's happening, bro? How you doing,
man? Oh, man, I feel like I've aged.
It feels like a family reunion or something, man.
I know, man. You look so good.
It's been a while, man. Yeah. You look well.
Thank you, man. I've been eating my veggies.
There you go.
Getting my nutrients in myself. I'm on my sea moss game.
There you go. Can't go wrong with that.
Hey, man. We haven't done this in a while, but there's a lot to talk about. So let's jump right to it.
Right.
The playoffs have played out. We're now in the NBA Finals.
Yep.
Before we talk about the two teams we got in anticipation of how this thing is going to shake out, the playoffs were the playoffs, right? There was some competitive games in there. It certainly was great to see some faces and see how it. But overall, what were your feelings when you look back on this year's playoffs and you say, okay, what you got is what you got? What are your takeaways?
Man, I think it was a good postseason. And to be honest with you, a lot of it played out the way I think a lot of people anticipated it would. Portland went out in the first round. That's pretty. I mean, I hate to say it because I'm a big Dame fan. I like Portland actually. They got a decent team, but I mean that's kind of been their MO for the last few years. LA, the Lakers. Excuse me, I have to differentiate.
Gotta be clear.
The Lakers, they hadn't been right for quite some time. Injuries kind of got them, and it just they seemed like a different team than they were the year before. I think they were really missing Dwight Howard. To believe it or not, I think they were missing his presence. I think they were missing JaVale McGee to a point, and maybe even Rondo. Who knows? But it just wasn't there for them. So that was not a shock for me. And to be honest, Phoenix looked like the best team that I've seen, in the playoffs. I am anxious. I would have loved to have seen what would have happened with Utah had Donovan Mitchell not gotten hurt. That's one question mark for me. I still think Phoenix was probably an overall better team, but I would have liked to have seen what would have happened there. But yeah, overall, I think we got Phoenix is the best team, and then with Milwaukee, I think with Embiid battling injury, I think that kind of opened the door. I personally think if Embiid was 100% or at least 95, I think Philly would have made it through. But I'm not mad. I'm not mad at Milwaukee making it. I think they're deserving.
So I am not. I am mad at Milwaukee making it. And I'm not mad because I think Giannis is he has the potential to be a generational talent, just because of how freakishly gifted he is. That size, that length at that size, and the raw skill, because he still, to me, looks very raw. limited in what he can do consistently, effectively. There's certain things you can get from him up and down the floor every night, but he's not a consistent jump shot guy. I think there's room for his mid-range game to get better and to incorporate some other things. Still puts the ball on the floor in traffic and loses it a lot. His passing ability is better, but it's not where it could be. And I look at that team and I think, they're just two-dimensional. It's him or it's Middleton got to be going. And the other guys, it's a crapshoot, even when they're home. Their coach doesn't make, to me, adjustments well. And I genuinely feel if Trae Young was healthy, they were going home. Milwaukee was going home. So that's one of the takeaways. The other one that surprised, this may surprise you because I had a different opinion before this year's playoff run. Tyronn Lue is a good coach. Tyronn Lue is a good coach. I think until I saw him coach and get the Clippers to play up, because I frankly think the Clippers went further than they should have gone once Kawhi went down. Not because they don't have talent, but I think to get Reggie Jackson in position to really be Reggie Jackson, to coach him up, to use Patrick Beverley the way he did. I think he was a little late on getting Boogie involved. So Boogie could get a rhythm, but I think to recognize he could and he needed to. I think he stayed with what was the guy that got Sarge there? No, it's not Sarge. It's the other guy they need to let go.
Yeah.
They need to
Matter of fact, I think he was hurt the last game.
He did get hurt the last, which is what gave Boogie more minutes.
I can't think of his name. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah. He was just he just was to me an underachiever as a big man. But I think that was the only thing they were missing. Paul George played well when he needed to, and I think it says a lot about a coach being able to make the right kind of adjustments to get your team to outperform where they should be, to not buy into we're down a key man. So I was actually impressed. I really wanted to see them push that Phoenix series to 7. I wanted to see what would happen if it was for all the marbles.
Zubac,
yeah,
that was going to bother me.
I think that's whatever for garbage. It's which is harsh to say. But that was a takeaway for me. I agree with you. I think Donovan Mitchell being healthy would have made for a different Utah team. Just because he was playing so out of his mind up until that injury. The other takeaway is also going to come from the coaching ranks. So that's my theme: coaching. I think Budenholzer has coached to his peak. I think Tyronn Lue lets us know you give him a couple of key pieces. I think he has the ability to get a championship team there to rival the Lakers. I think Tyronn Lue is a really good coach. And Doc Rivers, to me, is exposed in Philadelphia. You can't make a player do what you need him to do, but you can make the decisions for the team to get what you need. And I think he was getting some things out of Maxey that if you're not going to get Ben Simmons to give you more than 5 points in a closeout game, you probably knew that before you got to that point. And you need to give the minutes to the person that's going to get you there, prepare the team to do what they need to do, because they could have beaten Atlanta. But I really feel like Doc Rivers, and to what showed it was that in the end, when asked about it, he kind of defended Ben. And I think that's what people have done for that kid. And there's a point at which you call a spade a spade.
I think, I think there's a couple things at play. I think it's fair to say he was exposed as a coach. I'm going to try to give him the benefit. And I'm going to say, I'm going to give him one more year before
Ben Simmons or Doc Rivers?
No. Doc Rivers. Yeah. Before I make that presumption. The reason being, this is his first year with Philly.
Okay.
Not his first year coaching, but when he's standing before the media, what is he supposed to say about one of his star players? You build him, you're going through some rapport building. Who knows what kind of conversations are happening off the books that we don't know about. And for him to get up there and then say, oh yeah, this guy was terrible. I don't know what I don't know what he could say. I mean, you're supposed to, it's kind of like the coach that gets up there and you defend your quarterback, but then you go shopping for another quarterback right after the the press conference. I mean, but when you're standing in front of the media, you can't just throw him under the bus in front of everybody. So I'm not going to fault him for that, for taking up for him there. Where I will fault him is if I don't see any kind of change, meaning movement on the roster or a change in his game, the first quarter of next year, then all bets are off.
I think Ben Simmons, his play was so incredibly atrocious for the caliber player that he is, for the caliber player he is, with the skill set that he has, that I think it is fair for Doc Rivers to have gotten up to the podium and say, Ben Simmons has to figure out who he's going to be in this league. That is a safe jab to throw straight to his chin. You know what I mean? That's like, look, at the end of the day, we need to stick together. We need to be a team. We won as a team when we won, and we lose as a team when we lose. But at the end of the day, this team looks to that guy to show up. And he didn't show up. And he didn't show up not just tonight, but he hasn't shown up in this series. He hasn't shown up in this postseason. And he has to figure out, is he going to be the star caliber leader that people see in him, or is he going to be a mediocre guy who shows up when he wants to? Is he going to be a guy that when adversity comes, when he's defended well, when his offense is tightly contested, that he's going to wilt away? Or is he going to stand up, get a backbone, and push the issue? Because we know historically that's what the great ones do. And I think it's okay to throw that jab down range. And if your jab puts him on his back, then he had a weak chin.
Right.
But if that sends him in the gym every day in the summer to come back and prove you wrong, then you got a player. But that's the city of Philadelphia, man. They threw snowballs at Santa Claus on Christmas at a game that they were winning. So it's like, look, you have to take on the personality of the franchise to some degree, and if you're going to just water it down and make excuses, you'll be out the door 2 seconds behind him.
I hear you, man.
That is my take from the playoffs. Real quick, I think we saw some other things that are interesting. There's a lot of questions about what Kawhi Leonard's going to do now. Does he stay? I mean, before he went down, I think we were seeing a different Clippers team. Once he went down, Paul George seemed to really step in and embrace. And not only did Paul George seem to embrace it, but I don't know, man. I saw guys playing together. I don't know that you saw that kind of continuity when Kawhi was there.
What's going to be interesting to see is Kawhi better? Is he a better piece on that team, or is he better as a bargaining chip for trade options? That's because the team. I'm with you. The team I saw after he went down, you get another piece, that team may be in the finals next year. As long as playoff P continues to be playoff P and not pandemic P. But I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know much about Kawhi Leonard's, personality wise and how he gets along with his teammates, but it was definitely a difference. There was definitely a difference there. You could see it. You could feel it. So, I don't know. Is it time to maybe look at moving him and getting a different piece and, see what you can do?
We also saw after this, the playoffs wrapped up, Dallas seemed to look like it was going to go and dismantle everything. Rick Carlisle leaves, not for a bad gig, left for a good gig.
Right.
Things come out about Luka.
Yeah.
He and Porzingis not getting along, which I don't think is a bad thing. I haven't seen the unicorn since he was in New York.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out, is it too much for Luka? Can he be who he needs to be? Because I thought Dallas would go a little further than they did.
I don't think they have enough help. I mean, Luka can't do it by himself. I mean, he's scoring 40 points a night, but at some point that's not enough. Porzingis, you said, he's not, the unicorn is not showing up.
Right.
I mean, he did have what's his name? Hardaway Jr.
He played consistently.
He played well, but I mean, it's just not a lot of pieces with him, and he's not going to do it by himself.
So do you think? I'll throw this question at you: of the teams that we've talked about, who do you think would miss the playoffs next year?
Who do I think would miss next year? Of the ones, probably. So we're talking Dallas, Atlanta, Philly, LA. I mean, out of those, Dallas,
Portland.
Well, with the current roster or with the looming intentions, what are we looking at here?
Well, let's say throw some curveballs out there. What if Portland picks up Kawhi
and Dame stays?
Yeah.
Okay, if Dame stays and they have Kawhi, they're going to the playoffs. Yeah. Now, if they'll get out of the first round, I still don't know.
If you were Portland, would you give up CJ to get Kawhi?
No, I don't think that's enough. Because Dame does not get the recognition he deserves, I feel, and I think it's because he's on a team that is a perennial first round
loser.
And out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that hard? Right.
First round and out. I'm trying to be nice about it. So, but they do that every year. And so I just feel like Dame does not get the credit he deserves. He is good, man. He's a talent. And if him and CJ can't do it, I don't think him and Kawhi are going to do it. I think there's something else missing within that team. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if it's bench. They just can't get over the hump. And I don't think Kawhi is going to make that difference. Not on that team.
So Denver didn't have Murray.
Right.
And, I mean, we saw the league MVP, the Joker, do everything he could to get them as far as he could get them.
Right.
I'm curious if we see Denver slide next year.
I would not be surprised. I just feel like Murray's not going to be. He's probably not going to be himself initially. So, we got to wonder what kind of condition he's going to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And the Joker, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they fell a little bit. I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't know that they'll get out of the first round.
It will be something that I think what if nothing else, next year has enough stories already that make it something to look forward to. And, you figure the NFL coming back, and this is if things stay the same, right? If we still keep fans, I think having the fans back, we talked about this in a previous episode, having the fans back was great. I think we got exciting, competitive basketball. We're going to have some drama. Kawhi seems to be the main piece for the offseason for people to watch. The Warriors pick up 2 because of the way the lottery felt. They pick up the number 7 and the number 14 first round pick. So what do they do with their picks with Clay coming back? Do they leverage those picks to get a good veteran to join their club, or do they pick up 2 of the premier players coming into this year's draft? Wiseman comes back. Do the Knicks take another step? So I think the playoffs really set us up with enough excitement. What is interesting to me, and this is a great transition for are moving. By the way, we'll take a quick second to just note, if you haven't done so, be sure to hit that subscription and notification bell on YouTube, and share this with friends of yours, to join the show and join the conversation. Real quick, if we transition to talking about the finals, I think the playoffs were so exciting to set up next season that the finals are lackluster. It almost feels like it's a foregone conclusion that the Suns are going to win. Milwaukee's basketball play, as exciting as it was for them to get past Atlanta, they have not played up to that level to start these finals. So I'll throw it to you now. Looks like Phoenix is probably going to go up, protect home court. Do you think that Milwaukee will make a series out of this? And who is your pick between the two?
I do think Milwaukee can make a series. I think Milwaukee's a different team at home. For one, I think they do play a lot better at home. And Milwaukee is weird. I've seen Milwaukee, the minute I write them off, they start playing to their strengths. They're a big team.
Right.
They're a big team. They need to be, they need to be attacking the paint. And when they do that, they're usually pretty successful. Chris Middleton can catch fire at any time. I'll give him that. And Giannis is Giannis. I mean, he's he doesn't have a lot of weapons in his holster, but what he got, he can shoot with. You know what I mean? And he can make it work if he catches fire. So I think, when they go home, I think I can see them tying it up 2-2. I see Phoenix winning in 6. I see Phoenix winning in 6. Yeah, I just think Phoenix is a better team. DeAndre Ayton has become a man throughout these playoffs, in my opinion. He's solidified he's a bona fide big man in this league right now. Chris Paul is playing some of the best basketball I've seen him play in quite some time, albeit in the playoffs at that. His health has held up, which is good. And then Devin Booker speaks for itself. And then they've got role players.
They do. Mikal Bridges.
Campaign.
Yep.
I mean, they just got so many role players. Jay Crowder. I mean, they're deep. Yeah. So, I mean, I just think they're the better
Cam
team.
Johnson, who was playing, I mean, that kid, I think he opted out of his senior year or his year at North Carolina to enter the draft, to get ready for the draft because of the pandemic. Comes into the league, tearing it up. Yeah. I think Phoenix takes it. I think they'll win it. Yeah, I agree with you. I would be, in some ways, I would think it would be really sad for them to have played as well as they're playing, and for Chris Paul to be this close and him not get a ring. It just doesn't seem right.
Right.
You know what I mean? The disappointment for me has been Drew Holiday, to be honest. I mean,
who?
Drew Holiday?
Oh, who is
J-Rue?
Who is he?
J-Rue Holiday?
Oh, no, I'm playing.
J-Rue Holiday?
Yeah. He's been non-existent. I don't know. Who is that guy?
Let's go spell it for you next.
Yeah.
J-Rue Holiday.
J-Rue the Damager.
He has not been that, for sure.
No.
The prophet. His inability to pose an offensive threat. And here's where again, you cannot place a premium on basketball IQ. Mm-hmm. Like, you could look at the Phoenix Suns on paper matchup against Milwaukee and just say, if we don't have a backcourt that is threatening and making their backcourt work defensively, we are not going to stand a chance. Mm-hmm. Giannis and Middleton are going to do their part, but our backcourt has to be that third threat. And it can be a combination. It could be what we do to facilitate. But Drew Holiday's methodical approach to kind of just being a part of the offense, and maybe that, again, I don't want to put that all on him. That could be Budenholzer, but again, that coaching, right? You got to get in your guy's face. Hey, you got to beat it. Put Jeff Teague in. Jeff Teague gonna go for his.
Right.
Now, he may not score, but he's going to keep shooting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he's going to do what he does. And I think you have to know. I mean, that's what your point guard has to do. Your point guard has to know, hey, we got to make Chris Paul work. We got to make Devin Booker work. We got to make Campaign work. If they're not working, if they're not occupied mentally about, well, I can't leave him because he might hit that mid-range, or I can't leave him because he might hit that three, or I can't leave him because he might drive him. You got to be thinking. And it just seems like Drew is comfortable playing like a backup point guard that's I'm just trying to spell our starter.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's not the way he played in New Orleans. That's not the way he played in at UCLA. It's just disappointing to see him get this opportunity and play down in the moment as opposed to play up.
Yeah.
So, with that, Big Dame, it's a good point to transition. By the way, I also picked Phoenix. I want to take another second to recognize another one of our partners, How We Feeling, www.howwefeeling.com. These guys are transitioning the way that you interact online. They're creating authentic engagement with their app, and it is growing and catching on like wildfire. They're taking feedback now from users to constantly improve the user interface and experience to make it tailored exactly to what you need so that you can connect with the right people that you want to connect with about your journey. You can engage with them and you can take advantage of the experience to create an authentic experience online that adds value to your life. Everybody's got a story. Just change the way you're sharing it and where you're sharing it. www.howwefeeling.com. Big Dame.
Yes, sir.
It's the tip off. Mm-hmm. This is that midway segment.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we were talking about doing this originally, it was Ben Simmons' performance in that closeout game that was the inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Simmons was a no-show. Now, it got me thinking about this performance anxiety. Mm-hmm. Performance anxiety. What causes people to shrink in the biggest moments? This is something you prepare for. And for some people, it's a legitimate thing, right? It's psychological. That has emotional, mental, physical manifestations. But what do you think that is that causes people to shrink away in the larger moments? I mean, think about how many times you've been on the playground. Mm-hmm. You've done the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and he scores moment, right?
Right.
You've done he's double teamed, shake and bake, slide around, fantasy moment. This is stuff you practice. And now you're in that moment. You're living that moment. And to have an abysmal no-show performance, what did Ben Simmons have? 5 points?
Yeah.
He didn't even double digit in rebounds, I don't think, in that final game.
No.
It was almost as if he wasn't there, right? So when we talk about performance anxiety, I mean, first of all, when you think about that, what are some of the memories of catastrophic meltdowns have you seen that you recall?
Man, catastrophic meltdowns. That's one of the biggest ones, I would say. A big one. I don't know if you remember. I think it was Michael Moorer. When he had a breakdown in the ring and just went to crying and he couldn't go. He just had a moment. That was catastrophic. I think fear is the culprit. Ultimately, I think it's fear. I think it's so funny, man. So I had this conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago, but it's one thing to kind of sneak in. You're not supposed to be there. Nobody expects you to make it. Nobody expects you to really. And then, so there's no pressure. I'm just going to go play. Nobody's expecting anything out of me anyway. But when you're expected to, it's one of the reasons I have so much respect for LeBron's game. You look at a lot of these guys that have been playing in the league. D Wade, when he was in the league, even Chris Paul, when they've been in the league for a long time, that pressure is mounts and mounts and mounts and mounts. And there's something to be said for somebody Tom Brady, for somebody who shows up and they deliver. They don't just show up. I mean, your left tackle could be hurt. You could be injured. Your point guard could be hurt, whatever the case may be, but you still find a way to deliver every night. And it's something to be said for that, because at the end of the day, I feel like some people, when it becomes time, when it goes from, we just want to just play and have fun, it turns into, man, Ben can really play. Okay, well, we need him for 15 now. We need 15 and 8 out of you a night, on average. We need that. Right. We're expecting that. Matter of fact, when it comes to that point, some people, I think they're almost scared to reach out and get it. You know what I mean? It's like they're scared to grab it. And they're scared to fail. So instead of, whereas some people kind of push through that barrier and face the fear, they deal with the challenge. Because I got to believe, even for the people that deliver, I got to believe that some of that fear is still in there. Man, what if I throw an interception? What if but you have to face it and you have to deal with it. Whereas others, they regress. You know what I mean? They get to the point where, man, if I don't shoot, I don't have to worry about missing a shot. If I don't shoot at all, they can't say, well, he was 1 for 12. You know what I mean? Right. He shot 5% from the field. They can't say that if I don't shoot. And I almost feel like that's kind of what it is. You know, in many cases, I don't know that that's what it is with him, but it obviously seems like it's seems to be something mental going on, you know? So it seems like, to me, it's almost like a fear-based thing.
You know, it's funny. I think you could be right. I think when I was looking at researching kind of performance anxiety and performance anxiety issues, one of the things that I found is that there are a myriad of contributing factors. Stuff, you know, related to the game, stuff not related, stuff off the court, off the field, that sometimes contributes. You got issues going on at home. I heard a story, and I will leave the names out to protect the innocent, but a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, was connected to some folks and was able to sit with the wives of the players for a baseball game, Major League Baseball. And this particular game, he was sitting with the wives, and one of the wives was married to the closer. And he became privy to information that it was important for him to close and protect the win, because if he didn't protect the win, he took that home. And everybody paid. Everybody paid for it. I think that the pressure to your point is big. I think sometimes the anxiety may come because people, you know, stuff, man, it's muscle memory. I mean, by the time you get to the league, you've shot hundreds of thousands of free throws, hundreds of thousands, if not a million in your life, right? Most guys start playing ball when they're a kid, before it's even AAU, right? So you probably shot a million free throws. And if we average it out, you're good. You got to be 50%. The worst free throw is 50%. To have a meltdown like Nick Anderson had, where you airball 4 free throws in a critical game, just overthinking it. More than likely, you're overthinking it, right? I mean, you think about the jumpers that are missed and things like that, overthinking it and unable to get outside of the moment. Like, who cares about the narrative? Like, oh, you're at the line with the game on the line, and you know, you hit these shots, and the narrative is in your head. And I think that can cloud the simplicity of the moment, which is that I've done this hundreds of thousands of times. I know my routine, shoot the rhythm, don't think about it. Right. But I think sometimes we make the moment bigger. And I think it is outside factors, to your point, fear of failure. What happens if I miss and I don't get it done? Or fear of, you know, what if I do this and I'm just not successful? What does it mean to me and my family? What does it mean to will my teammates see me different? Will the fans treat me, you know, just you're thinking about stuff that has nothing to do with you. Just go through your routine, bounce, breathe, shoot. Oh, I missed. Okay. Shake that off. How do I do it in practice? Bounce. You know what I mean? And just get back to it. But the other side of this, which I think is huge, is as fans, do we have a responsibility to care about that?
To care about, no.
About the failed moments?
No. Because as a fan, all you care about is, did your team win or lose? And that's it. I mean, if I go to McDonald's and I order, you know, a number, you know, a quarter pounder meal, all I care is that it has cheese on it, it's hot, and my fries are good. They haven't been sitting around all day. That's all I care about. I don't care. And this might sound a little cruel. I don't care what your day was like. If you in there cooking, getting the food together, technically that's your job. And my job is to pay for the food and go enjoy it. So I mean,
so let me ask you this. Okay. So if you serve me my quarter pounder meal, my burger's hot, my fries are cold and hard.
That's a problem. I'm come see you.
I can come right back and I can get at you just the way I would a fan. What are you doing back there? All you do is make fries all day?
No, I would be smart because that's your food. These people are fixing your food. So be smart about how go in there very nice and hey, how you doing? Sorry to bother you, But yeah, definitely you got to go in there and get that right, But I think that's I think that's one of the things though that we forget. Like, so I don't ever think that a fan has a right to disrespect a player ever. But
Agreed.
Personally, for me, I look at the psychological aspect of it. I do. So I just naturally do that. So I'm like, okay, when I look at a Ben Simmons situation, I'm like, okay, something else is going on. I don't know what it is, but something else is going on. But for the general fan, if you're upset because he's not helping your team win at all, and you voice that concern, that's your right as a fan. You don't have to take into consideration that he's dealing with performance anxiety and he's nervous and he's, I mean, that may not even be on your radar as a fan.
Right.
What is on your radar is this dude only attempted 2 shots. That's what's on your radar. And we lost by 5. He could have helped us out a little bit more. You know what I mean? This is what he does this consistently. So, I think that I think it's 2 different things we're talking about. I think on one hand, I think we both understand that there's a lot on the players and there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of things to take into consideration. But from a fan standpoint, to me, as long as you're not disrespecting the player, calling the player out his name, trying to meet him in the parking lot on some crazy stuff, I don't have a problem with what fans do,
So let's keep it with the theme of performance. Mm-hmm. There are players who play up in the moment, mm-hmm. and the anxiety is you've heard it before. Like if you show up and you don't have butterflies in your belly, you might not be alive. I got to check and see if you got a heartbeat because you should be feeling some of that. There's a fine line, I think, to not feel in the moment and feel in the moment. Mm-hmm. Right. And having it overwhelm you. Right. Like it's too much. Right. It's like, okay, it's a little chilly out here. Let me put on a windbreaker. Mm-hmm. Or, man, it's a slight breeze. Let me go get my full length mink. Like that's all that performance anxiety is. You're overdressed for the moment. Right. And I think when we see these meltdowns, I think take one of the most famous ones, right? Billy Buckner, first base with the Red Sox. I think oftentimes people attribute that to performance anxiety. Mm-hmm. How do you let the ball roll between your legs? Well, I mean, it takes a funny hop off the dirt. It doesn't have to look wicked. You're prepared for a bigger hop to hit your glove, and it doesn't. It rolls between your legs because of spin. But now you're the GOAT, right? I think sometimes fans, we cruise and I don't know, Bill Buckner, I think he ran out of town after that. Like all that he had done before that, like that, sometimes those moments can be so huge that they erase everything you did before it. Whereas I think the failures, to me, there's legitimate performance anxiety. Nick Anderson, to me, that's a performance anxiety. Got to be, obviously, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You airballed 4 free throws in a row. That's a meltdown of some kind going on internally, right? Mm-hmm. You're overthinking that moment. Nick was too proficient a player for that to happen. I think in that moment, even though you're upset if you're Orlando that you had a chance, mm-hmm. and his inability hurt you. That to me is different than a Ben Simmons type moment, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Bill Buckner, more like Nick Anderson. It's a guy that's a good player. Sometimes the fans get so wrapped up, right, in the win that a person's legacy is forever tarnished in their mind. Like, don't mention his name because, and Nick, I mean, think about it, man. People don't talk about how great a player Nick Anderson was. Right. And Nick Anderson was a really great ball player. I I put him in a completely different category than I put someone like a Ben Simmons.
Right.
Because the expectation, he had so many opportunities to do some things differently that he ran from. Mm-hmm. Like he just ran from that moment. Mm-hmm. You know, you got a wide open turnaround. You're 6'10". There's a guy 6'5" coming your way. Mm-hmm. Bap on that dude. Mm-hmm. But you jump up and dipsy do a pass to somebody on the perimeter. You're under the bucket. You know, those kinds of things. That's where I say, man, the sports psychologists could, you know, make their years net trying to figure out what is it that's going on inside you that's causing you to shy away from the bigger moment.
But I think that's part of, so the difference when you look at a Nick Anderson situation, that was one isolated situation, and he may have had more than one, but that was one epic meltdown at a big moment, big stage, lights are on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get it. But overall, but this right here is almost, is becoming the narrative for his career. You know what I mean? Like this is a way of life. This is what we do. You know what I mean? This is not one game. This is not one series.
You mean for Ben Simmons?
Yeah. So it's like this is who we are now. So right. It's funny, man. I'm reminded. I thought of my own meltdown from a performance anxiety standpoint. So I take it back to when I played Little League baseball, right? And I had this thing, man, where standing in the batter's box, watching the ball come barreling down, I could not stand still in the batter's box and assess the pitch and either swing or take a ball or move. In my mind, all I saw was the ball like smash me in the face. It's just a disaster, right? Mm-hmm. Before the ball even leaves the pitcher's hands, right? He's winding up, and all I see is just mayhem, right? Like it's going to be bad. I'm out of the batter's box before the ball even comes out of his hand. To the point where it got so bad, to the point where certain teams, you could see the pitcher would just slow down, and their coach would tell him, just get the ball, just get it across the plate. Like, he ain't gonna swing. Just get it across the plate. He's not gonna swing. And they were right. One day, I'll never forget, I went through the whole season. I didn't get not one hit the whole season, right? Scared to death. That's really what it boils down to. I was scared. And I had, and this thing had taken on a life of its own in my head. So, and at that time, nobody was even throwing the baseball hard enough to really hurt you. But in my mind, it was just, It was devastating, right?
Right.
So I get up there to bat. This is like the last game of the season. It might have been second to the last game. I get up there to bat. I get my stance and everything. The outfielders start moving up because we had played this team once before. So they know he's not going to do nothing. Just move on. The outfielders start moving up. The infielders start moving up a little bit. If he does anything, it's going to be like a bunt or something. The ball comes and I just swung. I had made up my mind. I said, I'm just going to swing. I don't care what it is. I'm just going to swing and see what happens. And I swung and I connected. And when I tell you that thing went over everybody's head, I got like a triple out of it. Came back the next at bat, did the same thing, got another triple. And it was just like, it made my whole season, right? I still quit playing baseball after that because it was too much. It was too much stress for me. It was too much. It was too much. I couldn't take it, man. It's just not for me. I'll stick to football. 300-pound guy can hit me. That's fine. But that little baseball, that thing is deadly. But I say that to say it definitely was in my mind. I know that for a fact. So when I look at the difference between people who succumb to the pressure and people who fight through the pressure, it is all in your mind. And so when I look at somebody who this is an ongoing thing for you, it makes me wonder, are you being enabled? Are the people around you telling you, don't worry about it? Don't worry, man, they're crazy. You did the best you could. Right. Is that what you're getting? Or is somebody saying, hey, you know what? You're making a lot of money, man.
Right.
Why don't you invest in a sports psychologist and try to figure, see what you can figure? I mean, really, invest in yourself, right? You look at LeBron and a lot of these guys, they invest over $1 million in their body, just in their own well-being. Right. That's a wise investment. Your body makes you a lot of money. your mind makes you a lot of money too. And if something is going on, it'd probably be a good idea to figure it out, you know? So that's I'm curious about that. What's his circle like? What's being fed to him? What are his loved ones telling him? So,
I will share this as a close of this segment. Since we're having our, cathartic healing moment from our wounds of childhood, performance anxiety. In the summer before we started getting to know each other, everybody was going out for the hoop squad. Mm-hmm. O'Dowd was, I think that year going into our freshman year, they were ranked 17th in the nation, and they were coming off of state championship and just a really great ball club. And historically had been. I mean, the legends that came out of there were great.
Okay.
And so everybody was going there in part to play hoop. I went there with my mind set to be a part of making their football program as good as their basketball program. Mm-hmm. But I also loved hoop. Had a shot. I could play ball, mm-hmm. playground. So we're playing in the summer. 3 of my friends who I knew were good ballers. Mm-hmm. I'd played with Troy. I'd played with Marcus. Again, all playground. Played mm-hmm. with Los. Now we've got other cats playing with us. Larry, Eric. I think Eric was doing that. Hankins and a few other guys, right? Alex was playing. So guys were playing. Everybody's playing. And I'm looking at these guys. They're also all planning to go out for the hoop squad. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, because, I'm thinking, man, not only are they going out, but they also knew hoop. Mm-hmm. They also had played on their school's teams. Mm-hmm. I never played hoop organized mm-hmm. any more than I'd ever played football organized. Mm-hmm. And so, man, what are my chances? That's what I'm asking myself. Mm-hmm. And so it's time for tryouts. I didn't even go. Didn't even go. Because 2 things. One, I'd heard, they don't really like you to play football and basketball here. Mm-hmm. You can play baseball and basketball, but they don't really like, if you want to make varsity, Phelps is not going to let you play both football and basketball. Mm-hmm. So I bought the ceiling somebody else had set, the bar they raised. Well, I love football more anyway, so it's okay. And I pacified myself to stay in that box. Mm-hmm. Okay. Fortunately for me, shooting the ball is a love of mine, so I've never let that go. But I also never got the experience of knowing what I was capable of doing in that arena competitively. I never realized that if you push past the limit, maybe you'll find that you're good enough. Mm-hmm. Maybe you'll find that what that one thing you do is just what the team needs. Mm-hmm. But I never pushed the limit. And so I think one of the reasons to raise the issue is, one, we want to look at our sports heroes and see where they're, see the narrative and distinguish between the Nick Anderson and Bill Buckners, where whatever that moment is, it's clearly something that if we see them as human beings, we can have compassion mm-hmm. and distinguish that against a moment where we should have an expectation that this young talent is not doing enough to address it. Mm-hmm. But more than anything, in our own lives, performance anxiety exists, and never allow ourselves to shrink or shy away from potential success because we're afraid of what could be on the other side of that. Oh my God, the risk of failure is greater than my risk of trying, my willingness to try. And that, I think, keeps people living underwhelming and unfulfilling lives. So with that great moment to recognize that when you try, you probably work up a sweat. And when you sweat, you definitely need a bath. So with that, we want to thank Diazio for being a longtime partner of the show. Samira Jakes has done an amazing job creating a fabulous, organic, all natural product. She makes these bath bombs are amazing, and you could get them in any myriad of things, and they're playful and fun for your children, but they're also really great and functionally valuable for us as adults. all natural oils and ingredients, no synthetic oils, no chemicals used to create the fragrance, to create the feel that you walk away with. But she also does these awesome sugar scrubs that are wonderful in the shower and great for your skin. So when you get a moment, get over to the website, check it out, www.diatsayun.com, and go through her catalog. Buy yourself 1, 2, 5, 10. They're all under $10. So guarantee you're going to get a great value, but you're also going to be glad that you did it and thank us later. So visit their website, DAPTIME 2R1. Big Dame, main event. We were talking a little earlier. Mm-hmm. We're going to stay on the theme of performance. Mm-hmm. We understand Sha'Carri is not going to be running in this year's Olympics because of drugs. Mm-hmm. Some would say marijuana is a performance enhancer. We could argue that all day. But we also know Houlihan's not going to be running this year because of actually steroids. Mm-hmm. And so this is a bit of a twist on our conversations. People rushing to argue and debate the fairness of how justice is dispensed equitably. I think we both have agreed. We've been impressed with the fact that there's ownership and accountability, which we don't get to see enough of in our athletes. She was quick to acknowledge that, whether she ingested it, she was exposed to it. Mm-hmm. She didn't put her excuses out front. She just took responsibility that there was validity in the test. Mm-hmm. And because of that, that's on her. And it's a lesson she'll learn from. And she's been firm in saying, she'll learn from it, grow from it, and get back at it. So that's an impressive response. Conversely, Houlihan has said it was a burrito that she got some steroid meat, maybe.
The last time I ate a burrito, I felt like I could lift a car. So I don't know. Maybe she.
Tell me where you buy your burrito.
Hey, man.
That's not Super Taqueria for sure.
Right.
But in either case, man, performance enhancing. We talked about performance enhancing drugs a while ago. We also talked about how they're regulated and the difference in regulation. But my question to you is centers around this idea about the governing bodies, be it, the IOC or be it the NBA league office or whoever your governing body is for your sport, and how they manage that process. Are we getting to a point in society where we should start expecting some sort of uniform standard applied to help us as sports fans accept the outcomes? Or are we getting to a point where maybe we're going to see radical change on a case-by-case basis because the people are tired of being robbed of moments to really fairly support their heroes and their sports icons?
I think we're more on the doorstep of radical change. Personally, I don't think you can make it the same across the board. For simple fact is, with the IOC or with the Olympic competition, you're talking about world. You're talking about the governing bodies from several different countries that have to weigh in and be on one accord. When you look at like the NFL, NBA, MLB, it's just us. So it's just whatever the laws are here, we can base things on that and come to whatever conclusion we're going to come to. So I don't think you'll ever see it be one thing across the board for that reason. But I think change is very necessary. I was, and we talked, of course, earlier, but a big thing that stands out to me is, let's take the NFL, for example. We all know those guys do a lot of things to manage pain, right? Pills they can use. Not a problem. Totally legal. Shots are okay. Totally legal. Matter of fact, Tyrod Taylor, when getting a shot for pain, something went wrong in the lung and he got a punctured lung last season, which ended his season. So that's how dangerous that is. These same athletes cannot by right, at least during the season, as far as I know, just go smoke a joint or take an edible or whatever for pain. They can't do that. So I think that's a problem. It's been proven to have medicinal purposes, for pain relief and things of that nature. Why not let an athlete take advantage of that? It's much safer than the pills and the shots, I would think. So that's one issue. The other issue with the Olympic Committee is I think we have to, there's corruption in a lot of different places, right? Albeit. But I think we have to decide what are we doing? What are we really trying to accomplish? If you're trying to set a fair playing field, there's a better way to do it than, suspending people for marijuana. I don't think marijuana is a performance enhancer unless you're saying it helps that person to deal with the anxiety so they can focus and perform better. Maybe that would be an argument, but I really don't think putting smoke in your lungs is helping you run any faster. That just that seems counterproductive to me. You know what I mean? But currently it is a rule, understandably so. But I just think there needs to be an overhaul of the system altogether. And so, of course, Sis ran professionally for a time years ago. The lists that they give these athletes of substances that they cannot have in their body for fear that it will trigger a dirty test or whatever. A lot of over-the-counter drugs are on this list, cold medicines and things of that nature. I remember her getting sick, and she had to be careful of what she could take. She couldn't just take anything because if she got called for a test, she would fail. So, that to me, that's a problem. That's silly. I think overall there needs to be an overhaul.
I agree with you. And I think that's part of my frustration with, listen, I'm not up in arms about Sha'Carri's situation for any of the reasons that people are arguing about it. Mainly because she's not up in arms about it. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be more mad than you are that you got an offender bender. Right. You mean you got hit this morning? Yeah, man, they bumped my car. I can't believe they, I'm not going to be that guy. Right. But I do think that it highlights, more than anything, I'm concerned with because of how our media behaves. And I think you made an outstanding point. The media is not just the major broadcast networks. Mm-hmm. If something goes out and now, Johnny, who's got, 500,000 followers, takes it, tweets it out, puts it up on his Insta page, puts something on TikTok about it. His followers retweet that. You're reaching millions through multiple channels and oftentimes impacting the way that they view a group of people, even if that group of people is a group of athletes. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I don't follow that sport because I don't trust that they are, doing the right thing. And here's another example of that. When the facts aren't there, we've talked before, Josh Gordon, mm-hmm. Most people only know the headline. Josh mm-hmm. Gordon is hit again for substance abuse policy violation. How many people did the research to go back and find out that the violation was that he was on vacation out of the country at a time when they wanted to randomly test him? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, okay, I'm sorry, my family and I are in Italy. Mm-hmm. You just tested me 2 weeks ago, so I felt like I was safe to go. Yeah, we can't randomly test you, so you're not here. That's a violation. Right. And now you're suspended for 6 games. People aren't knowing that. What you get is a soundbite because it comes out through some talking head that, stay off the weed. Mm-hmm. He wasn't on the weed. Right. He was on vacation. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I think when you look at the policies and how the policies are legislated and then how justice is meted out, so wait a minute, because I missed a drug test, you're going to take 6 games paychecks away from me? Come on, man. There doesn't seem to be common sense behind some of the things that are being done. Now, is his being absent and out of town technically a violation of the rule? Yes. But really, is that a sensible rule?
Right.
Can you police that better? Could he? Well, if we take that away, he might be able to skirt the test. Maybe, but who's he hurting if he's running around drinking and getting high?
Right.
Himself. You know what I'm saying? And I think the other point you made, which I thought was really, really great, is so she's suspended from going to this year's game. She can't run in the Olympics. But now if she was dealing with her pain and trauma, pounding a fifth of vodka every night, be totally fine.
No problem. No problem.
Right. And the damage that she'd be doing to herself, so much greater. But we're okay with that because that's legal and we don't legislate that. Right. So again, I think when we look at these policies, we look at how things are happening, it's so much bigger than what we get through the media outlet. And it's a bigger issue because we also look at our biggest sponsors for most of these sports. They're alcohol sponsors. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You tell me you're not going to get a Bud Light commercial. It's one of the people look forward to the Super Bowl commercials because hey, what's Bud Light going to do? What's Bud going to do? Right. What's Bud's what's Bud? And I'm not coming at Budweiser, and I'm not coming at people who ingest alcohol. I have been known to partake in my life, so I'm okay with that. But my point is that there seems to be some hypocrisy even in the way that we talk about substances, right? Vices that people have. Here's one vice that scientifically is proven to improve the quality of life of athletes who use it medicinally to deal with the violence of their sport. And yet, can't touch it. Can't touch it. It's legal in my state. Can't touch it. But I would suggest that you go down to Gillies and sidle up to the bar and just drink as much of that pain as you can away. Now, when that person turns into they get a DUI or they have a domestic violence case because they were, any of the other things that go along with it. And we were talking earlier about performance. I mean, performance anxiety is real, right? It is real, so when you talk about how do you cope? Yes, we would hope everybody makes these right choices that are by the book. Mm-hmm. But the human side of us, some moments are going to be just bigger than we're prepared for. And there doesn't seem to be room to allow for that in the way we mete out justice when it comes to substances.
Well, yeah. And I think also we have to go back to what's the purpose of the system? What are we trying to accomplish? So in the case of the IOC, my assumption is they're trying to accomplish a level playing field. Okay. Well, are we doing that though? So, I mean, are we really, is this necessary? Is this particular substance, does it skew the playing field one way or the other? Does Sudafed skew the playing field one way or the other? Do these different cold medicines? No, but we don't want them taking that because then it might show up as something else and we can't tell the difference. Okay, well, that's on you. So so your system doesn't work. That's not, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the bigger issue that we really need to look at. And I think it's really on these committees and these leagues to step into the new millennium, you know what I mean? And kind of take a look at things and say, okay, maybe this is a waste of time. Maybe this is a waste of money to focus on these things here. Let's focus on this. And then that way, because what you really don't want steroids. You don't want stuff that's going to give people that unfair advantage. That's what you're trying. That's what it started out as. Now, I don't know what we're doing now. Now we're just
better now you might not want to eat a bowl of Fruity Pebbles.
Now it's subjective because right. whoever the tester is, I would assume it's up to them. Well, now it's up to you how far you want to go. I'm going to take this back and it's just enough. It's just enough to where I can call it this or that. So we're going to have to take this before the board. Or you could say, let's just do another test. This is kind of iffy. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just think I think when you leave things up to people to be subjective, it doesn't work anymore because now, depending on what kind of mood you're in, what kind of individual you are, you have power over my situation. And I don't think you ever want to be. I don't think we ever want to be in a situation where you're leaving it up to somebody else's just opinion. You know what I mean? Either it is or it's not. And so if the system doesn't allow for that, then the system needs to be changed.
I'm 100% with you. I think that is a great place to put a pin in it, man. We're weeks away from the kickoff of the Tokyo Olympics. I know we're both excited to see that. Mm-hmm. I am thrilled to announce on our show, and I know you're not prepared for this, my beautiful niece is going to be competing in the Junior Olympics this year. Absolutely. So it'll be nice to get a preview later this summer of what we hope will be her future on the Olympic stage as she runs in the Junior Olympics this year. So proud to not only announce that, but to congratulate her on this episode and dedicate this episode of Game Time to Sugarfoot for being an outstanding athlete in her own right as an 11-year-old, and looking forward to seeing what you do. Praying for you to have great success. Big Dame, it's a wonderful place for us to segue into my favorite segment of Game Time, the championship rounds. Very curious to see what nuggets of wisdom you pull out of Big Dame's archives for us today.
Man, this is the championship rounds. As you know, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where it counts. This is where the gold is found. You know, it's interesting, man. We talked in the last segment about performance anxiety, and we talked about those moments where people, you kind of get caught up in your head, and you shared a story about wanting to go out for the basketball team, and then you kind of got in your own mind, and you let other people tell you what the situation was, and you took you set your ceiling based on the information they gave you as opposed to setting your own ceiling. But I think people do that a lot. And I think what that basically is, and a lot of people do it without realizing what they're doing, is they're really projecting their fears and their inabilities onto other people. And so we got to understand, as we move through life, that happens a lot. People are going to project. You can't do that. You can't do that. Who says who? You know what I mean? And if you buy it, that's on you. If you buy it, that's on you. But one way that we can always remember that trying never hurt anybody and it's always free is this quote right here from John Sinclair. And it is, failure is a bruise, not a tattoo. Just a bruise, just a little bruise, and bruises always heal. So if you try something and you fail at it, so what? It'll go away. You know what I mean? You'll get better. You learn something from it. You'll get up, you'll try again, and you'll get it next time. So keep that mindset as you move forward, and I think you'll see some success.
That is a gem. Failure's a bruise, not a tattoo. I love that. Yes, I love that. Reminds me of the sermon from this past week's message at church, man. It was a good one.
We can get the plate around.
Wait. I left my wallet in the car.
we got Cash App and all that. We got you.
Big Dame, as always, man, I appreciate the nugget of wisdom and the conversation, ever so rich. Pete Nice, thank you so much for always scratching on the brake and dropping the needle on the one. But most of all, we thank you, the listeners, for tuning in to this episode of Game Time. Sorry we left you waiting for a couple weeks there while we got into our summer groove, but we are back here and we'll be serving you up on the reg. So if you haven't done so, I'm going to remind you one more time. Before you leave, hit that subscription bell right down at the bottom of your screen and the notification bell next to it so you can catch everything that we drop. Visit us on our website, www.itsdaptime.com, to learn more about us, about the show, and subscribe. Communicate with us. Let us know your thoughts and ideas for the show so we can incorporate that, make sure the conversation is rich and meeting you where you live. If you're not doing so, connect with us on social media on all the major platforms. On Instagram, we're at DAPTIME21. On Twitter, we are at DAP_time. And on Facebook, we're at DAPTIME. But wherever you connect with and however you do, or share with 5 or 10 of your friends, bring them on in. This is a family and a community we're trying to build, make a difference in the world together so you can make a difference right where you live. We'll leave you now, as we always do. When you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, there is your competition. We out.
Peace.